Well, good morning and welcome back to CityLine. I have been having the best conversations with our new guest on the comfy couch, Burl Battersby. I had it right the first time. I love that last name. It kind of trips off your tongue. He is the executive editor of Voices of Tacoma, and he's here to talk about Voices of Tacoma, a gathering of poets. Welcome.
Thank you.
Like I said, you look just like my English teacher, Mr. Grimes. Even the hair.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And you have to say to me now, Amanda, remember, it's a journey, not a race.
It's a journey, not a race.
That's what he would say to me, because I was the school newspaper editor. All right. Tell us about Voices of Tacoma, because Jessica mentioned some of the poets we have in Tacoma. Christian Page is one that comes to mind.
Yeah, our Tacoma Poet Laureate. Yes.
He's our Poet Laureate. Yeah. So what is a gathering of poets?
Great. So we are, it is a program that is partly funded by the Tacoma Artist Initiative program.
Yeah.
And we are building on the culture of the literary arts community that exists in Tacoma. We're not creating it, we're just building on it. We have so many talented poets and writers in the South Sound area. And we've had a lot of poetry collections and poetry anthologies that have been published over the years, but it's been since 2009 when the last anthology of poetry exclusively was published, and that was In Tahoma's Shadow by William Kapinski and Tammy Robacker. And
I remember Bill.
Yeah, Bill was our first Tacoma Poet Laureate.
Was.
Yeah, and so he's actually a part of this program too. But we are building on the legacy and continue to gather poets together to create that community.
I've been looking for you. As I always have the Poet Laureate on the comfy couch, and TV Tacoma has them on several times during their year. I've often, when I'm done with them, thought, where do I go to get a gathering of people like you? And you have just told me where to go.
Yep.
So how can somebody get involved with the Voices of Tacoma? How could I do that?
Great. Well, the first thing to point out is every one of our events is free and open to the public.
Yay.
And so we have monthly gatherings. We do those at the various library branches around town. So it's an itinerant gathering that we go to the different libraries each month. And that's just a writer's group, an opportunity for poets to come, gather, read their poetry, write poetry, talk about poetry. Our next gathering is at Moore Library on Wednesday, January 31st at 6:30.
And what you have just described is the magic, it is the glue that puts forth the poem.
Yeah.
Being around like-minded people, being brave enough to talk about your work, and brave enough to take feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you mentioned early on, just minutes ago, Tacoma Artist Initiative Program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to start just by talking about the impact it's had on me personally, and that has been significant. As an artist, as a poet, it's sometimes hard to affect change in the community, right? You feel sometimes like you're working in a bubble and you don't have that opportunity to impact others. Well, the Tacoma Artist Initiative Program is a funding program that the city hosts. It's a 2-year cycle, and it provided me with the funds to be able to host these gatherings and host the other events, workshops that we have. And it really allows artists the opportunity to not only to create art for the public's consumption, to enrich our communities, but it also really is something that the artists can learn new skills, to develop new skills. I'm a poet, I'm not an editor in my, so this is something new to me, and it's been a real challenge to learn in a good way, and I've really loved it.
Yeah, that tipping point that we talk about. You got some new 10,000 hour skills to learn.
Exactly.
Hearing from all the diverse voices within our city, this is an important part of the project. We all know that. How are you ensuring that all the voices get a chance to be heard? And what is this next to you?
Great question.
Yeah.
So we are moving around Tacoma, and one of the things that I always carry this is my calling card, if you will, that I pull out as we're talking about what we can do to make a little change in Tacoma, right? And this is a map that is an overlay of the Red Line map from the 1930s with the modern neighborhoods map overlaid on top. And so we have an opportunity to talk about the impact that the redlining had on our city. And that was almost 100 years ago, like I said, and to this day, we're still, actually living under the impact of those
Oh yeah, the quality of life, and as Mayor Woodard has said, we are a compassionate city, and as I say, there is no place for redlining in the city of Destiny, or in Pierce County in general, or in the whole world for that matter.
And we're not going to be able to make a huge amount of change, but we're making a little change, and if everybody makes a little change, we can make great things happen.
So I know, just by talking with you, that you are partnering with other organizations that you're working on.
Yes.
Drop some names for us.
All right, great. Well, I want to give a huge thanks to a lot of the folks that we're partnering with, starting with the Tacoma Arts Commission and the Artists Initiative Program leaders. Naomi and Daniel have done so much to help this, not only me, but all of the artists who are part of the program. The Tacoma Public Library, we host all of our events there. We really have a great partnership there. We have also, it's important that I talk about Creative Colloquy, which was the organization that inspired me when I first moved to Tacoma. Jackie Casella and her team.
I love her.
Yeah, it's amazing what she's created in that community that we want to build on. We also have Blue Cactus Press, which is with Chris Vega, and since that's been founded in 2016, Chris has been publishing the work of the communities that have been marginalized in the past, and that's such a big impact on us. Right 253, I'm going to go on and on, but I want to point out Mauricio Robolino.
Yes, please do.
Mauricio is not a poet in the normal sense, but he is working with us to create our cover art, and that is on the screen now, Voices by Mauricio Robolino. And he's also working on illustrations for us, as well as what he and I like to call doodads, some of the flourishes for the text itself.
He is an incredible artist. I had him on years ago, and I will always remember that he's from Yakima.
Yes, yeah.
And we talked about Los Hernandez tamales together, the James Beard tamales in Yakima.
Yeah.
So this monthly gathering of poets, when I walk in, what am I going to experience?
Great question. So we have modeled this on my own experience with writers groups in the past. And as a writer, like I said, you feel sometimes as a writer that you're sort of isolated, right? And so to have the opportunity to spend time with fellow like-minded creatives and talk about what we're working on, sharing what we're working on in some cases, but there's no pressure. You don't have to read. Sometimes you just come and listen to the voices of Tacoma.
And just sit there and let it just soak into your pores and your spiritual sense.
Exactly.
There's something else coming up, and I love this because it's one of my favorite seasons, and it's the Autumn Poetry Workshop Series.
So that is actually something that happened last autumn, but we're going to be doing more workshops in April, which is the National Poetry Month.
That's right.
So we're going to be doing more workshops, but I wanted to talk about the Autumn Poetry Workshop Series because that was such an impact on our program. We started with, it was really designed to help elevate writers to become published poets or writers. And so it started out with grounding. We had a poet by the name of Christy Gledhill, and she helped us to understand, she helped us to understand how place can take part in our writing. We went into generating with Celeste Schuler. She taught us how to write from our own experience, how to generate from our own experience. And then we had Jenny. Jenny is a publisher, and I'll think of her last name in a second. Bartoy. Jenny Bartoy is a publisher in Tacoma, helped us with learning how to edit our own work. And then we finished the series in December with Chris Vega with Blue Cactus Press.
God, you are all over it.
It was great. It was great. And we had such a great time with that it's really inspired us to continue to think about further workshops that we can offer.
So in these last few minutes here, now tell us the big news, the anthology. Tell us how we can submit poetry.
Great, thank you for asking. We are through January 31st accepting submissions. The poetry can be anything as long as it's of, about, or inspired by Tacoma. The QR code on the screen will take you to the website where you'll learn more, but it's important to know, again, like all of our events and activities, free, open to the public. You don't have to live in Tacoma. We are looking forward to getting the different voices of Tacoma, and that anthology will be published in the autumn of this year.
Okay, so because you are so incredible. I'm thinking, when can I have this amazing person back? Certainly in April, but also in autumn, because you're going to launch this book, and let me tell you, people are going to grab it like wildfire.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've been showing a website below that handsome face of yours. Is that where we would go to find out when the book is launched, where it will be?
Yes.
How long do I stand in line at King's Books for it? You know, those types of things.
Exactly. Well, we're looking at a lot of different opportunities to launch, and we really want to take our launch to the neighborhoods, right?
Yes.
So our poets from the neighborhoods can read to their neighbors. And so we're looking at a simultaneous launch. There's a lot of details to work out, but we want to be able to launch in multiple locations at the same time, but it would be available at King's Books. It would be available through different avenues as well.
I want to say thank you for all that has led you here. I want to say thank you for the team that we couldn't get on the couch.
Yes.
And thank you so much for helping us wake up through poetry. You are an amazing individual. I can't wait to see you in April.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Golden Gloves will be in the house after this brief message. I'll see you then.